Well,
So.
Actually, yeah, I had the same type of experiences, but the thing that probably surprised me the most was how often I had the reverse experience, because I had an extremely supportive dad and I had a very supportive career track, and I went to a firm that I knew had a stellar reputation for how they treated women. I mean, they were the only law firm recognized by, I can't remember which magazine, a woman's magazine, as having childcare. They were the first law firm to offer childcare to their kids. Now, it seems like that's great. I mean, to their attorneys, that seems like a great deal, but the truth is that let the mothers stay at work and they didn't actually have to go home, which was the real reason. But they got a lot of kudos for this, and that was part of why I picked that firm, and so I never really ran into that. But what was surprising to me is, especially as I got more and more technical, is how often I am the only woman in the room. I mean, I would have thought there would be more women there. And I went to this spam summit a few years ago. It was to talk about the issues with spam. And that's actually one of the things that I personally am an expert on. And I've written white papers on the spam crisis and how to deal with spam and the dangers of it. So I'd gone to this with the Federal Trade Commission, and I walk into this room of literally 750 men and 3 women. And I tell you what the best part was, there was no line for the restroom. I mean, seriously, awesome. And we just sashayed by these guys, and we're like, ha, ha, ha. Yes, now you know how the shoe fits, suckers. No, just kidding. No, but in all seriousness, and that's still the case. I'm in the Young Presidents Organization that I'm actually the recent ex-chair as of last year, but that organization has something like 25,000 members internationally, and of those 25,000 members, 650 are women. So that's not a problem in this country. I mean, you think it'd be better here, but even in the United States, it's only about 20%. And so it's continually surprising to me, first of all, that there aren't more women who are entering those fields, and then the second thing that was surprising to me is when I am the only woman in the room, how much more of a voice I have. I mean, I found myself in a room full of CEOs of wireless companies, and these guys are, guys who assume that the woman's the secretary, or guys who'll say, hey, you're a girl, go get my coffee. Those kind of men who are in these industries, who kind of pulled themselves up with their bootstraps and, built these companies from scratch. And so I'm in a room with about 150 of these guys and myself. And I started to say something, and some guy got on me about it, like he was going to cut me off or he was being condescending. And there were no fewer than 4 men in that room who completely jumped on him and said, no, she needs to speak. And I got actually more airtime for being a woman in that room than most of the guys got, because I had other men in that room who were willing to step up and say, you need to be quiet and let her talk. So those are 2 surprising things.
Oh, everybody's looking my way.
You don't have to talk.
I guess I'll say something. I guess kind of piggybacking off of what Karen mentioned about, women and all of the panelists, specifically in TV. It's quite hard, actually, in this market, because there are so few women in management. My television station, in the news department, we have 4 managers. I'm the only woman. And so oftentimes when we're deciding how to cover something, or where should we send our crews, who should we deploy, I have a unique point of view. I'm a woman, I'm African American, and these other 3 guys who happen to be Caucasian, while they are open and can completely, understand other points of view, sometimes it's just totally lost. They're like, huh? And all 3 of them are married, so, it's always that, what is it, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. That even plays out in the newsroom. I guess one of the most surprising things that I've found in TV is that while it's hard work, it is you get such a gratification from it. And knowing that you have touched someone's life, someone saw something that day that it's going to make a difference to them. When I was in college, I kind of had a glorified view of TV that, nobody's going to really work hard. I don't know if you guys used to watch Murphy Brown, but I really liked Murphy Brown. You know, they just kind of laughed around the newsroom, and then miraculously, there's the newscast. It's not like that at all. You're working very hard from the moment you walk in, and you know, sometimes people go, well, it's just TV. There's a lot into it. We have always have ethical questions that we have to answer when we tell stories and that type of thing. So the most surprising thing to me is just the awesome gratification that I get from bringing news to, you know, Arkansans every day.
Thank you. All right, I think I have the next question, and it is, as professional women, we are constantly trying to have balance in our lives. I'm still working on that. But sometimes it's the little day-to-day stuff that stresses us out the most. So not the big issues, not the major organizational catastrophes. It's the little things that seem to stress us out the most. And I don't know that that's just uniquely to women or not, but I think I'll jump in first with this. Two things. In a management role, I think one of the things that stresses me out the most are the just childish HR issues that you have to deal with, you know. And someone you mentioned earlier taking things personal, but just the, oh, you know, Susie upset me because she didn't like my jacket today. Well, if that doesn't really affect your work life, I'm not sure why I'm having to counsel you about it. But so, you know, I think trying to nurture people into that and really distinguishing what's personal and what's professional, those little things just seem to just drive me crazy. And then I think for me, and I think I'm the only single person on this panel, for me being a single female, I feel a tremendous amount of stress to be at everything and to never say no. And some of that pressure came up through me going up the career ladder. I tried to take every opportunity, obviously, and I would go to everything. But then it became I was expected to be at everything, and I was expected to go to everything because I didn't have a husband and I didn't have children to go home to. And so I'm still struggling with that in a balanced life. And so from time to time, you know, that can stress me out too. But
and I think that Gretchen brought this up the other day when we were talking, but when you run a business, you think that you have to be at everything too. So I think that is somewhat of a role as well, and we need to give ourselves permission to think that other people can do things. And I think personnel is huge. It's a big time consumer in our lives, and saying no. It's hard. It's hard to say no to someone's raise. It's hard to say no to, you know, I don't want to give you money for that or buy your product. It's just hard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, showing up every time, it's interesting because it's really true. And it is a balance because my dad used to say, when I used to call him for advice when I was in D.C., it's like, oh, there's this thing, should I go? And he used to say, do you know who the most popular ticket is in D.C.? Now, this was in the 90s, and so that was actually Dick Gephardt and his wife. And the reason was they never went to anything. So if you actually could get Dick Gephardt to show up at your party, it was huge. So there is a balance there. And if you show up at everything and they know you're going to be there all the time, then it puts the kind of pressure that Gretchen's got. My little stressor is actually kind of embarrassing because, you know, seriously, it is. Because I'm somebody, I can actually stand up and kind of extemporaneously speak in front of 150 people, and that's totally cool. No problem at all, no issues. You know, you call me tomorrow and say, hey, can you do a speech? I'm like, yeah, no big deal, that's fine. But the idea of having to give my daughter a different and creative, good lunch every single day, it just weirds me out. And I gave her, and I when she first went to preschool, I was like, okay, here's mac and cheese. She likes mac and cheese. Like about a week later, I get a call from this one teacher, and she goes, you know, you send mac and cheese every day. And I said, yeah, she likes mac and cheese? She goes, well, she doesn't anymore. I was like, okay, well, thanks. So then I felt all of this pressure. So now I have these Uber lunches. You know, it's like you've got yogurt and ham, and, you know, and I think, does she have enough things if she doesn't like that today? It just is an amazing amount of pressure. and then my husband, he's so wonderful, and he really helps a lot with the childcare, but, you know, he just fritzes on lunch. I'm like, baby, can you make the baby lunch? And he's like, what? And I said, he said, what should I? So, but then I'm making him the list of what to put in the lunch, so I might as well do it myself. So. Good?
anything else?
Oh, okay, so All right. What skill sets and or personal traits do we think anyone wanting to work in the area of marketing should have? Okay.
I'll take that one.
All right.
First and foremost, for what I do as far as publicity is concerned at the design group, and in my role at KARK, is knowledge, research, all day long. You have to make sure that you really become an expert at what it is that you're going to be speaking about, trying to put out to an audience about who wants to read something or listen or see something that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and it's just a bunch of gibberish. So when speaking to clients, speaking to viewers, web users, that's the most important thing. Is just making sure that you know what you need to say, and making sure that when you're talking to clients and you're trying to do something for a client, what is it that they need? Just make sure that you've got a clear understanding of that, so you can do your job right.
I actually think that that everyone talks about how you need to be a good writer, you need to be a good communicator, and this and that, but I think you have to be a good listener to be good in marketing. You really have to understand what your clients want, what your clients need, and you have to understand how what you offer does or doesn't fit that. And the more you can have a conversation with your clients, the better you are at this job. So you can hire somebody who's a brilliant writer, and you can hire somebody who is really great at public speaking, and if they can't listen to client needs and figure out how your services fit, then I don't think that they'll be successful in this industry. There are other things that they would be successful at, like writing proposals, but to be really, really good at marketing, I think you have to be a good listener.
I agree. I think a lot of times, the research, the background is definitely plays into that situation, but I think personality is a big component of that, being able to listen, having a positive personality. So much of marketing is either face-to-face or it's over the phone, and people can feel that enthusiasm, and if you are excited about what you are selling or what you're telling them, it makes them excited about it, and so it's so much easier to sell. And so I constantly look for some of those intangibles about your personality. Are you positive? Are you enthusiastic? Are you excited about? Are you passionate about what you're doing? And I'll briefly give a little tidbit about me. I think one of my favorite stories, and I like to gig my brother on this, is growing up, I played a lot of sports, and I was very competitive. And I played lots and lots of summer basketball, and I can thank my mother for funding all of that. But it did turn out to be beneficial, and I got a college scholarship. So as I was going into college, I never really had a summer job. And so because I had played a lot of traveling basketball and never really had a full summer job, my brother, on the other hand, worked at the furniture store down the street and hauled hay and made money, so he liked to constantly remind me of that I had no work skills. And he constantly teased me about, I don't know what you think you're ever going to put on your first resume. Is it just going to say, I play basketball? And I, played it off and said, it'll work out. And so I now love to tease him that so far in my career, in every single interview I've been, first of all, I landed my first job simply because it said I play basketball on the resume. And secondly, to date, in every interview I've ever been in, I have been able to pull from that experience of being a competitor, being a team player, being a listener, being a leader on the floor. And so I've constantly been able to pull from that athletic background. So I think, somewhat creativity and being passionate about what you do, it all ties back. So.
I'll throw out there the word curiosity. I think people who are curious, it's a plus if you're in marketing, because you wonder why people do what they do, and you're thinking about how can I get someone to pay attention to what I'm saying or marketing to them, the product. So if you have someone who likes the status quo and isn't particularly someone that asks a lot of questions, I think that's a harder fit. So people who ask questions, I think that's a good sign to look for.